Hello, Reds, and welcome to the 100% United podcast. We're coming off a harrowing week for the club. It's time to get serious. I'm your host, TC. Here's my co-host, Scott. Hello, pal.
Hello, mate.
On today's show, we take a deeper look into what is happening at Manchester United. We've used up all the excuses and explanations we can find for this team, but they run out of chances. Yesterday afternoon was almost unforgivable. Nowhere near good enough, Scott, and a total embarrassment, 4-0 to Everton. Are we going to be able to keep this clean or what?
We'll try our best, eh? We'll give a bit more effort than was given yesterday and try not to humiliate ourselves.
Well, that won't be hard, will it?
No, it'll be pretty easy.
Yeah, as we say, buddy, and just an absolutely shocking day. 4-0 at Goodison Park. I mean, I can't think of a worse performance in living memory from a Manchester United team, I don't think.
I don't think there is one. I think we're just going one direction now and it's down. There was nothing redeemable about yesterday's performance. The effort put in, as you say, it was pretty unforgivable.
Yeah, I mean, we did mention, I know you touched on the fact that we are a team that is affected negatively by goals or positively by goals. So obviously when that first one went in from Richarlison, that jumped to my mind. I thought, are we going to react badly again? And so it came to pass.
Yeah, and I've read a few things saying that the first 3 goals were fantastic goals, and I have to say I don't agree. I think they were all pretty savable. The first one, yeah, I mean it's a good finish, but it went straight over De Gea's head. It just stunk. Everything just stunk about it.
Should we take them one by one? I mean, the first one, we've got a long throw from Digny. He launched it in there. We haven't won the header. It's got flick on. I don't know if you can expect Dave to save a volley from sort of 5 yards. Maybe that's the expectation we have of him. But all round, I would say it's definitely avoidable. We haven't won the header. It's got a flick on. Richarlison, he's 5 yards out or whatever. I'm not sure you can blame Dave for not saving a volley from 5 yards out. Maybe it's the standards he sets for himself. But again, collectively as a team, we've allowed them to go 1-0 up without much of a fight at all.
Yeah, I think that's what I was meaning. We've all seen De Gea pull off these outrageous saves for the past few years, and so when he lets one like that in, you just think, hang on a sec, this isn't the same Dave we've been seeing the last few years. I think he was still just haunted from his performance last Tuesday, and he's just in the depths of his confidence at the moment, and he's not getting out of it anytime soon.
Yes, mate. I mean, and obviously he was handed the captain's armband for Sunday. What do you think? What do you make of that decision? I mean, I was wondering whether he might be dropped for the game.
I think it was maybe just to give him a bit of confidence and to show him that Ollie does still believe in him and still think he is the number one goalkeeper. It didn't look like it worked in terms of giving him any confidence. It was awful, mate. It
was, and obviously the worry was for me. The reason I would have put Romero in actually, which would have been a difficult decision for myself, is because I know what happens with keepers. Now it's shoot on sight with Dave, isn't it? And then Dave knows they're shooting on sight. So he knows that everyone thinks he's a dodgy keeper at the moment. And so it came to pass again. Sigurdsson outside the box. Again, how many seconds has he got to pull the trigger there? He's winding up. I mean, what does Sigurdsson do apart from shoot?
I don't know. And it's come from one thing we've been talking about the last few weeks is how dreadful our set pieces have been. And it came directly from a corner.
It's incredible stuff.
Yeah. And you've got to say that one is savable, right? You're saying how long has Sigurdsson got to shoot it, but how long's De Gea got to see it?
You know what, Scott? I might surprise you here. I don't blame Dave for the second one. I really don't. The ball came off Sigurdsson's boot and it definitely started curling right to left. It started curling away from the goal. And then it started bending the other way. And when it started bending the other way, Dave went down. I didn't think it was Dave's fault personally. I really didn't.
Right. I mean, it was the same as the Granit Xhaka goal a few weeks ago. That he commits himself far too early. Lets a ball that's very savable go in.
I would the Xhaka one. I obviously tore him to shreds over. He's taken a step the wrong way. And I mean, he's not even gone anywhere near the corner. I mean, Sigurdsson's shot, it started outside the post. I'm not blaming him for that, personally. I don't know whether that's just because there's credit in the bank and I don't want to continue slagging him off every week. But there's definitely something wrong, isn't there, throughout the team. And unfortunately, Dave has caught the plague. I mean, let's not spend too much time poring over this game, but, obviously got in at half-time, made a couple of changes, Young and McTominay in. We have discussed before, I know I've been trying to push the point that I've noticed a problem with our midfield when Fred and Matic line up together. Again, they started together, didn't they?
They did. You're right. We can't just spend all day digging out one player because they were all pretty rubbish, mate.
Yeah. But again, that pattern continues. And another pattern I've noticed actually is, you remember the end of 2017 season, we won the Europa League. Herrera was being touted as future captain. We were all absolutely loving him. He was playing brilliantly. Pogba was thriving alongside Herrera. Jose was looking like he was going to go into the next year and really, really take on the title. And then Herrera and Jose fell out. Herrera went out of the team, and we went to pot, and Pogba went to pot too. And the same thing's happened now with Ollie. You know, let's look at that run when we were flying along. Herrera was playing, Matic was playing, protecting Pogba. We were mentioning it. We were saying, look, that's what Pogba needs. Herrera's come out of the team now. Obviously, there's contract negotiations going on, etc., etc., etc. Again, the team's downturn in form has coincided with Herrera being a persona non grata.
Yeah, I think one thing we can see from the fallout here is that Ollie doesn't want any players who aren't fully committed to him and his style and the team. And if reports are to be believed, then Ander Herrera is one that isn't committing to anybody, and he doesn't deserve a place in the team.
Yeah, and the problem we've got is he's one of the players who, when he is on the field, does commit. So he's one of the players who does give 100% every game. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's a player who wants to stay at the club and cash in, but then he walks onto the field and doesn't perform, or someone who does perform on the field, but then they're saying, I'm going to cash in elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure I completely believe that. I think the last game he did play, the game at home to Watford, when he got substituted off after 60 minutes, he was pretty anonymous for that time. Ander Herrera on his day, when he's fully committed to the team, yeah, he is a fantastic player, and he's a player that you would have one of the first names on your team sheet. But maybe he's setting an example of him to the rest of the team, that if you're not going to commit to the bigger picture, then you're not going to play every week. You're not going to play any week.
Yeah, and I can certainly endorse that that view from Ollie. Absolutely. I mean, one worrying thing that's coming out now is that apparently the Spanish contingent, De Gea, Mata, Herrera, have noticed that the club was very swift in renewing Shaw, Smalling and Jones's contracts, and they feel that the English players are getting preferential treatment over them. I will have to say that, yes, they will get preferential treatment because they're of more value in terms of squad structure. They're homegrown players. So therefore, we need a certain amount of homegrown players in our squad. If we sell them, other clubs know that, and they obviously sell English players or homegrown players to us at a premium. So I do understand us having more urgency, but if we're alienating a whole contingent there, then again you have to look at what is going on at the club.
I don't know, TC. I really don't. It's one of those things that there's so many things wrong behind the scenes at the moment that it's hard to pinpoint just one of them. I think Alexis Sanchez being on at such outrageous money has shifted everyone's focus. And, I remember back in Fergie's days, he used to go on about the wage structure being the most important thing about the club. And I think that when we signed Sanchez, we completely broke that wage structure, and now it's affecting everything else.
Yes, absolutely, buddy. And let's look. Let's have a look deeply into each area of the club and see if we can get to the bottom of this. But let's polish off this game quickly first, shall we? Obviously, the third, De Gea punched away again. Long range shot. What are you blaming Dave for that as well?
If it was definitely an avoidable goal, I don't really know who to blame. It was definitely one that could have been avoided. I don't know I don't know how much time Digne has to go back and retrieve the ball and shoot on the turn. We hold David De Gea to these standards of being the best goalkeeper in the world. I don't think he should be getting beat by shots like that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. At the moment, he's not the best goalkeeper in the world. I mean, that's plain for everyone to see, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And then obviously a devastating fourth. Walcott of all people, racing clear, and that was just game over. It looked like the players didn't even want to be there. It really did, didn't it?
5 years ago, we got beat at Everton, which turned out to be David Moyes' last game, and it stunk of that. And it's sort of the same emotions that I felt during those last couple of months of Moyes are sort of coming back. That I do anything I can to watch a United game when it's on, and now there's a game coming up on Wednesday that I'm dreading.
Yeah, and for these words to come out of my mouth, Scott, you know how bad it must be. I wish it was International Week. I really do. I wish it was an international break. I don't think I've ever thought that before. But yeah. and especially after a loss, I always say that's the worst time to have an international break. But it's not coming off a loss, is it? It's coming off a few losses and just shocking performances. I mean, I had a look through the stats for the last sort of 4 games. and it's shocking reading, buddy. It really is. I mean, we edged Everton possession wise on on Sunday, so that was the first time we've had more possession than someone in 4 games. But yeah, Everton more shots on goal, more shots on target, more corners, and then we look back to Barcelona the week, more possession, more shots on goal, more shots on target, more corners, and then we can look back to United West Ham as well.
Mm-hmm.
More possession for West Ham, more shots off goal, more shots on target, more corners as well for West Ham. And then we go back to the other Barca game. And again, I know actually we won one stat on that. Just shots in general, 10-6, but none on target. So we look back 4 games and we haven't had more corners, more shots on goal, more shots on target, or more possession. I mean, incredible stats.
Yeah, and distance covered as well, right? I remember when Ollie first came in and he said the one thing he wanted was our team to be working harder than everyone, and it's just not happening. It's not even close. It took us 85 minutes to get a shot on target on Sunday, and even that wasn't a threat, was it?
No, it wasn't. And obviously he's had a word with the players and asked who is interested and who is dedicated to the club. It sounded like he tore into them after the game and really was questioning. And it sounded like it was the backroom staff, everyone was tearing in and asking, do you actually care, you boys?
Yeah, and valuable questions, because you can look around usually at the body language of players after we concede a goal, and some of them would point and shout and try and rectify things, and other ones just slump their shoulders, turn around and think, well, God, what's next? And you saw a lot of the latter on Sunday, and it's an attitude that just stinks, doesn't it?
It does. And of course, Ollie came out and apologised to us fans. That's fine. We accept Ollie's apology. That's fine. Dave came out and apologised as skipper. I understand that as well. Pogba's also come out and apologised. But he's done this apology again. We've heard this before, where he says that the team wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough. The team wasn't mentally good enough. I wasn't mentally good enough. Well, if you know you were not mentally good enough, why didn't you just change that halfway through the game, you nutter? I mean, how can you say mentally I wasn't good enough? Surely that's up to you, isn't it? It's up to you whether you're mentally good enough on the day or not.
For sure it is. He's just trying to state the obvious.
Well, he's basically saying I wasn't up for it.
Yeah.
And that's unacceptable. I don't care if you're apologising. I don't care what you're saying. If you're saying, oh, well, I'm sorry for today, I wasn't up for it. That's not an apology. You don't apologise for that. You just don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's ridiculous. It's like these people when they get pinged for a drugs test and they say, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake, mate. You cheated. you stuck the thing in your knee, in your arm and you cheated. And it's the same situation here. You apologise, like Dave apologised. Yeah, I made a mistake. I get it. No problems. I accept it. But apologising for not being mentally ready for a game, for me, is just bonkers.
Yeah.
And he's a massive culprit, Pogba, isn't he? I'm sorry to say it, buddy.
He is. Yeah, it is unfortunate to say because I know he's one of our favourite players when he's at least trying, right? When he is up for it. But when he's not, he's, if you're on a football team and the best player in your team, he's not up for it and he's just lackadaisically sauntering around and sulking and what have you, it influences everyone else. And it's just, you sort of now listen back to some of the stuff that Mourinho was saying, and it makes a bit of sense.
It does, pal. And you know what? Let's have a look through. I mean, I know we're going to focus on the different areas of the club. Let's go from top to bottom. First of all, the owners obviously have been in charge of the club now for sort of 15 years. Mm-hmm. I'd say probably isn't now. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, in that period of time in the Fergie era, they didn't really have to make any decisions, so that was fine. Since Fergie went, obviously, they had to make a lot of decisions. And the result of those decisions has been pretty pathetic, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that we're a club that needs silent partners. I think that we should have someone who cares about the club or just give it back to the people, right? Before them, when Martin Edwards was the chairman and it was a PLC and everyone owned a bit. To be honest with you, mate, I've spent my life being a Manchester United supporter. I try my best to support them in every facet, in every way I possibly can. And after Sunday, some little thing inside me got seriously hurt, and I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah, no, I know, pal. And you know what? This is as good a time as any to mention it. Why on earth were we wearing pink on Sunday, Scott?
No idea. You think, because they're wearing white shorts, white socks. So our stupid kit, it does actually work.
Yeah.
Wearing red, black and black.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't.
Well, I mean, we've played at Everton year after year after year, right? And we always wear red. So, if we're struggling with our identity at the moment, if we're struggling and people are sort of taking pot shots at us saying we're not the real United, we're not the United of old, why would we not wear our regular colours? Surely that's playing into the hands of the people who are seeing us as an easy target. We walk out in a sort of salmon-coloured pink shirt when we could be wearing our home colours of red. To me, it's a small thing maybe in many people's eyes, but it's a stupid thing. It's an unnecessary thing. We're playing into their hands again.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And we'll take that point a touch further. Why are we wearing black shorts and black socks at home? That's not our colours either.
Yeah.
So again, we're giving off the impression that it's not the old United. It's a different United. And even next year's kit hasn't even got the right United badge on it, has it?
Nope.
So from the kit maker, the kit maker's not doing their job. They're putting out absolute rubbish. And we don't look like United, which doesn't help at this point in time. And then obviously someone's made a decision to wear pink on Sunday, and come on, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. They're just trying to flog a dead donkey now, and I don't know if we have to wear the kit a certain amount of times per year.
Yep, that's exactly what it will be. But what they don't realise is that Adidas will make a lot more money if they just did things properly and just gave us nice kits.
Yeah.
We'd all buy them, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I definitely would. I haven't worn a United shirt for a couple of years now.
Anyway, that's a little side point. But so we're looking for a director of football now. And so this is meant to be one of the things that's going to solve all the problems in the club. And then so we're looking at Mike Phelan. So we're going to have a director of football who's never been a director of football before at the highest level. And then a manager who's never been a manager of a top club at the highest level. Is that a wise idea? Or again, are we just going along with emotion? Are the Glazers kind of just trying to keep the fans happy and trying to save money? I don't know. I mean, it seems like, again, we're just, walking through the fog.
Yeah, I think we could even go one step a bit further and say that we've got a CEO who is a business-oriented man. Fine, he's brought dozens of new sponsorships and made the club hundreds of millions of dollars and pounds. But is he the right man to be making these football decisions?
Well, like we said, we all got swept away on the emotion of Ollie being in charge and going on such a lovely run. But logic did suggest that you can wait till the end of the season. We're fans, we're emotional, we're mad. We were calling for Ollie to get appointed, but it's kind of their job to say, just hang fire and we'll wait on this.
I don't know what they were thinking. But we were sitting there before saying, what difference would it make? It just shows that sometimes what you really wish for doesn't end up doing it any better. What glitters isn't always gold. And it's a tough predicament to be in, pal.
It is, buddy. But now we get to the real targets, don't we? Because I've always been someone, even as a little kid, I'd never slag off United players. I've always supported them to the bitter end. But now I look at this dressing room, and I look at the years that we've had, and the substandard years we've had, and there is a few names that have been ever present throughout those years. It must fall on some of those heads. It really must. There's some suspects. I don't want to start naming names and slagging people off too much, but the reality is that I think there's some poison in that dressing room, pal. I really do.
I would have to agree with you. And if you look back on the Fergie years, and there were a few constants in that team. We had, Ryan Giggs was in that dressing room for 20 years, and he was one of the best players we had. And he always put the club first, and he was always mentally up for it, etc., etc. I just don't think that we have those positive, influential players like we used to.
That's a great point, pal.
The younger players and the less experienced players do look up to, that they're just not pulling their weight themselves.
Yeah, and it's a very good point, actually. If you look at our older stable of players, our experienced stable of players who've been at the club for a while, they are sort of meek-mannered, mild-mannered players. You're talking about your Ashley Youngs, your Tony Valencias, your David De Gea's. You're not talking about, your Roy Keanes and your Ryan Giggses here, who in their different way can grab a team by the scruff of the neck and pull them over the line.
Yeah, well, think back to when we had Ferdinand and Vidic and Evra. Those were world-class, multi-trophy winning players who had won it all, but they just wanted to keep on winning, and they had this mentality of nothing's enough. And I just don't see that anymore.
No, no. I mean, and yeah, when you do look through, I mean, we're looking what De Gea, Smalling, Jones, Young, Valencia. These are the kind of people. Matter, I suppose, has been there, ever present. I'd say he's been a positive influence on the club.
Even he was too fed up to write his blog post today.
Yes, that's worrying stuff if
Yeah.
he's not getting his pen out. But yeah, mate. I mean, I just there's too many names in there who have been ever present through all these bad years. And yeah, sure, we've slagged off Moyes, we've slagged off Van Gaal, we've slagged off Mourinho. We're not anywhere near slagging off Ollie, but I think the writing's on the wall, and we have to start pointing our finger firmly at some of these players and getting them out.
Yeah, but you look at that performance yesterday and you think more of them would have to go than stay. You're talking 8, 9 players would have to go, and I just don't think we can do it. As you said, I don't think we're good enough just to let Pogba go, let alone let all of them go. You'd love for, I remember back in, 95, when Fergie felt like, Mark Hughes, Paul Ince and Andre Kanchelskis weren't pulling their weight, and he decided to get rid of him and bring in some of the youngsters. And that was one of the best moments of all of our supporters' lives, right? And one of the most dramatic U-turns that was the most beneficial. But if you were to do that now, you'd have to get 8, 9 players out of there. And
Yeah.
we can't bring in 8, 9 youth players and hope that we're going to finish anywhere above 8th, 9th.
Yeah, I know, buddy. I mean, you're looking at like we mentioned Pogba. Obviously, the vulture's going to be circling. I mean, they do well to avoid him. If I'm honest, I mean, the guy, he just turns it on when he fancies it, doesn't he? That's the truth of the matter. Look at the World Cup. He came alive when the matches got big.
Mm-hmm.
He can obviously do it. He's come alive for us a number of times. But then, I mean, look, Ollie came in and he basically played well for a few games just to prove Mourinho wrong, didn't he? And now he's gone back to his old self.
I think it coincides with all this Madrid talk that now he's just sulking because he's not going to get his move to Madrid, and he's playing so bad that it's just a no-brainer to get rid of him.
I know. It's just a shocking situation, Scott. It really is. I mean, I didn't expect that on Sunday at all. I didn't expect us to get spanked by Everton. I thought that was, people. As I say, the players apologising after the Everton game. We heard apologies after the Barcelona game, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then the reaction was meant to be for the Everton game. So how many times do we have to listen to these verbal apologies and not see a physical apology on the field?
I really don't know. And if you even look at the United Instagram page, they post a lot of stuff on Sunday before the game, and the players arriving at Goodison Park and coming off the bus. And you even look at some of their faces; they weren't even up for it before the game, let alone halfway through the game. It wasn't as though the performance made them turn off. That they weren't even on to start with.
I know, but what can we do about it, Scott? That's the question, because the fans are there, they're singing for 90 minutes, massive positivity towards the team. What more can we do? What more can we do than show our unconditional support game after game? Where do we go from here, honestly?
I really don't know. It's going to be, as you say, we're going to have a really busy summer, both ins and outs. But it's the kind of situation that we need a complete gutting of a house. It's not just a simple renovation anymore. We got to go in and completely refurbish the whole thing.
Yes, buddy, and obviously, as you mentioned earlier, there's no time to lick our wounds, because City visit midweek on Wednesday, come to Old Trafford, and I mean, what we expecting there, buddy? I mean, it's the players are talking about reacting. City are going to be shooting from everywhere. The fans are going to be having a total laugh. I don't know what to expect, buddy. I really don't.
Me neither. And it again reminds me of those few games under David Moyes near the end of Moyes' tenure that we played City at home, and you just thought, oh God, I'm just dreading this. And we ended up getting smashed 3-0. A few weeks later, we played Liverpool at home, and you just think, I can't even bring myself to look forward to this or predict anything. And same result. I don't know. I really don't. I'm certainly not going to be giving a man a match on Sunday.
I wasn't even going to ask, buddy. I mean, the mental thing coming out the weekend is obviously City dispatched Spurs, got their revenge on Spurs on Saturday lunchtime.
Yep.
We obviously were absolutely desperate on Sunday, and then incredibly, we're like someone who wants to commit suicide, and someone keeps coming to save us. We're desperately trying to finish this season. And then Arsenal keep on going and losing after us. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It reminds me of a few years ago when we got stuck in 6th and we just it never looked like we wanted to get out. Mm-hmm. And There were opportunities everywhere to advance our position, and we just never took them. You're right. It's one of those things that we just want. We just want the season to finish now, and there are opportunities everywhere that we just aren't going to take, and make it even worse.
Yeah, shocking stuff, Bale. Really shocking. And knowing us, we'll go and beat City on Wednesday. Liverpool will win the title, and we still won't qualify for the Champions League.
Yeah, but you know, here's me fretting about not qualifying for the Champions League, and I don't really think it's the worst thing in the world anymore. We just need to right these wrongs. It's not as though we're going to go into the Champions League try and win it. The only reason we really want to get in the Champions League is to be able to attract the talent to be able to try and put pressure on winning the league next year. But I mean, even that is, you look at a performance like Sunday, and even the last 5 losses in a row, we're so far away from being able to challenge Liverpool and Man City.
Let's look at it. I mean, we're 20 points off them now. So over the season, yeah, we've been nowhere near. But still, since Ollie's been in charge, we're in the third spot. We've only gained 4 points less than, I believe, Liverpool and 5 than City. So still, even with this awful run, with Ollie at the wheel, he still has overperformed for this squad. Let's be fair about that.
Perhaps. But don't forget, we came second last year. It looked like we weren't that far off, and now we're just regressing and getting further and further away from it.
But we were second and a good, 15, 17 points behind, right?
Yeah. I think, it might just be the fact that Liverpool and City haven't dropped points for 2 months now, and we haven't won a game in 5 games.
Yeah. But as I say, Ollie's still going toe-to-toe. He's not miles off City and Liverpool, and he is gathering a lot more points than Arsenal and Chelsea and that gang. So as a body of work, you've still got to say, Ollie is still, he's still doing a much better job than his predecessors. But like we said, a caretaker manager becomes a permanent manager, and normally there is a drop-off. And normally it's at the start of the new season, because normally a caretaker manager comes in with sort of 4 or 5 games to go. And then over the summer, they do their thing, start the new season, they have a run like Ollie's just had, and they get sacked in the autumn. And I did say maybe hiring Ollie now will circumvent that, so we have a bad run now. We get out of it before the end of the season. We sign in the summer. We start next season with all guns blazing. Now, I know I'm Mr. Positive, and it might not be the day to say that, but that's what I'm hoping for.
As are we all, mate, because something needs to happen now. But I think that the upturn of all of our form that came about at the end of December was when Paul Pogba was playing fantastic, and he was the centre of our team. And now in the last month, since all this Madrid talk and since they've unsettled him with their rumours and what have you, it's just all gone backwards.
Yeah, and you know what? You mentioned Real Madrid just then, and obviously when Ronaldo, their talisman, was thinking about leaving at the end of last year, they were all like, "Yeah, fine, just go. We'll be fine without you." And they obviously haven't been fine without him at all. Mm-hmm. They've been absolutely desperate this season too. Bowed out the Champions League before us. They're not making any noises in the title race at all. So it just goes to show when you do get your talisman taken out of your team, even a much better team than us, like Real Madrid at the moment, it affects you massively. Unfortunately, we've got a talisman that we've still got, but he only appears for sort of 5 games in a row, and then he goes missing for 5 games in a row. And it's just a problem I don't know the solution to. I don't want to sell the guy, but if we keep him, he needs to change his attitude. But he's already telling us that sometimes his attitude isn't on, and well, he's basically saying he can't do anything about it.
Yeah, something needs to change, and it's not something that we can just click our fingers and it will happen. There's something deeper, and I don't even know how we rectify it. I don't even know how we solve it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we could solve for starters is we could just get a proper captain. I mean, we haven't had a proper captain now for, well, how many years? It's been a few, hasn't it? Because Rooney was still skipper when he wasn't playing at the end of his tenure, so he was still skipper. And then we had Tony Valencia come in as skipper, or Tony Valencia covered for Rooney for a while, didn't he? And then he took over the captaincy. And then we've got Ashley Young in there, captaining sometimes, then Pogba sometimes, De Gea sometimes. But we haven't had a proper captain for almost half a decade now. It's mental.
Yeah, but when you look back in our successful periods, we had Steve Bruce, fantastic captain. We had Roy Keane, fantastic captain. Eric Cantona was even fantastic captain. You look at this team now, and who could you give the armband to that would galvanise these players when we'd go 1-2-0 down away at Everton, and we have a player who can grab everyone by the scruff of the neck and turn it around. I'd honestly scratch my head to think who you would actually even give it to.
And doesn't that say it all about our squad?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Even we had Nemanja Vidic as well, that he was someone who wasn't a academy graduate, hadn't been there since he was 18, but he came in and he had the wherewithal to be able to influence the players and to turn things like that around. And we're just so far away from that now that it's really tough to see.
It is, but it's not like we haven't had the chance to sign these kind of players. We've had a chance to sign Godan, didn't we? Had the chance to sign Sergio Ramos, which is one that it would have been a massive fillip for us. It really would. I know some people at the time were saying, no, he's a filthy player, he's dirty. We don't want him at the club. Look at the way he drags teams, drags Madrid out of trouble all the time. Proper leader, proper modern day leader. We've had the opportunity to buy these players, but instead we've bought your Bailly's, you bought your Rojos. We know they're not leaders, and we know we've already got Jones and Smalling, who again are not real leaders either.
Yeah. Still waiting for Phil Jones to turn into the next Duncan Edwards, mate.
Don't you start. Unfortunately, we've got them tied down to new contracts, so they're not going anywhere. Honestly, pal, it is just a desperate time. It was, as I say, we've been on a bad run, but I thought Sunday was our chance to burst out of it. And now we're into we've got City, and then we've got Chelsea. I tell you what, those boys have got to pull their fingers out, because if they don't, this is going to get worse.
Of course it is. And it's hard to imagine, because it's already as bad as we've seen it for. Never in my life have we lost 5 games in a row. It's desperate, mate. Really desperate.
It really is, mate. And sometimes in life, when we were crawling along the floor for years, weren't we? Under Van Gaal, Moyes first, then Van Gaal, and then Mourinho at times. But the high we got from Ollie coming in, the excitement we got, and then to come crashing down to earth, it's a lot more savage, isn't it?
It's awful. We thought we might have turned the corner, and now it's such a bigger job than any of us expected to be. It wasn't just bringing someone in to steer us in a different direction. We've got to change the engine of this car that Ollie's behind the wheel of, and it just didn't look that bad, but it obviously is, because there's just attitudes in there that stink, and we've got to replace them. We can't just fix them.
I know, buddy. I know. But you know what? We're in danger of going round and round in circles here, aren't we? We're obviously massively disappointed. We don't really know where we can turn at the moment. We're gonna try and regroup as a team and as a club. We have got City on Wednesday. Now, obviously, we're crossing our fingers and hoping for a reaction. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Not with the usual positivity that we share, Scott, but we got to keep our chins up, enjoy all the rest of the parts of our lives in the meantime, and hope and pray that we can beat City, get this rot out of our system. But at the moment, it's hard to see through this fog, unfortunately, pal.
It is. Listen, at the end of the day, we're Manchester United. We support the greatest team in the world. Things aren't going too well at the moment, but we've just got to keep at it. We've got to keep supporting this team, because this is when they need us the most.
You're absolutely spot on, buddy. And you know what? As a club, we've had darker days than this. Far, far darker days than this. Let's keep our chins up. Let's stay positive. The song at the end, We'll Never Die. That's Man United to the core. We'll see you later in the week. Thanks a lot, Scott. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, thank you, mate.
Cheers, pal. Cheers, Reds. Keep chins up. We'll see you later in the week.
Ta-ra.
Cheerio.